Hi, welcome to Crisco's Corner. Proud to live in the greatest country in the world. Unfiltered opinions, no PC discussion here. Agree, disagree, hate it, love it, it's all good. Sit back and enjoy some unfiltered commentary. We discuss politics, culture, interviews, and more. Your comments are always welcome. Please help the channel by hitting that subscribe button. Doesn't cost a thing. And as always, thanks for your support. Hi folks, welcome back to Crisco's Corner. I want to bring this up because I think I'm trying to make a point that I think that the progressive leftists and the few sane Democrats left aren't really grasping. When the other side that you're against gets screwed over, it's okay. I want you to think about this for a minute. Supreme Court basically hid behind procedure in rejecting Texas election lawsuit. And that's true. That's what the White House press secretary said. I think she's great, by the way. And I'm a Trump supporter. I'm not going to try to shy away from it or even apologize. In fact, I'm proud of it. I'm proud of the policies that he did. The man may have some major flaws, but the policies were spot on. Anyway, I want you to think about this for a minute. Wonder if some of the landmark Supreme Court cases, Roe v. Wade, which was just when I was a junior in high school in 73, and Brown versus the Board of Education, I believe, was in the 1950s, and same-sex marriage case in 2015, I believe it was. Wonder if the Supreme Court said, you know, we're not going to hear that. What are you, crazy? Jesus, people are going to be nuts. I mean, we just did a case not too long ago where when we tried to seat Justice Kavanaugh, and they were banging on the Supreme Court door, and the police weren't helping at all, and it was a madhouse. And I mean, they're going to threaten our families, my children, where they go to school, my grandkids. I mean, God knows who else. And any of the social network that I have here in Washington over the years, because a lot of them came from the D.C. Circuit Court before they came to the Supreme Court, so they have lifelong, or at least very long-time friends socially, be ostracized. I'll lose half at least, not even counting the extra security I'm going to have now, and for my family and my friends, and the hell with that crap. That's ridiculous. I'm not going to hear a Roe versus Wade. I'm not going to hear Brown versus the Board of Education. I'm not going to hear same-sex marriage. My God, what are you, stupid? I'm just going to say no on a procedural matter. Okay, let's talk about that. From Fox, McEnany argues Supreme Court hid behind procedure in rejecting Texas election lawsuit. There's no other way around to say that they just dodged. And she's right. She's absolutely right, said Kaylee. Supreme Court justices who rejected Texas' bid to overturn the election results in 4 states hid behind procedure instead of reviewing the facts of the case that still stand. White House Press Secretary Kaylee McEnany told Hannity on Friday. Now, I'm not going to read the whole article because I'm going to go through the 3 cases. There is no way to say it other than she dodged. They dodged, they hid behind procedure, and they refused to use their authority to enforce the Constitution. Or I should say their authority under the Constitution is probably more accurate. And we can go on the merits of the case, and that's not what this is about. I think people forget. Something. Human nature is human nature no matter what side of the aisle you're on. Granted that the left uses their emotion to control their brains. But nonetheless, here's the deal. You guys are cheering. The orange man lost again. That ridiculous piece of blank lost again. Even his own 3 justices said no. Hooray. Or they were cheering in the streets. And I want you to think about this for a minute. McEnany addressed the massive increase in mail-in voting in Georgia, which involved a rejection rate of 0.37 as opposed to normal 6%. Let me go through some of the procedures, but I want you to think about this for a minute. Let's go through each case. Gaffel versus Hodges. I'm probably butchering that name. This is the case in 2015, a landmark civil rights case, which is true. In the Supreme Court of the United States, they ruled the fundamental right to marry is guaranteed to same-sex couples by both the Due Process Clause and the Equal Protection Clause. I don't agree, but that's beside the point. I want you guys to think about this for a minute. What would happen if they said, you know what? We're going to let the lower court stand to make it unlawful, because you can't have it in one state and not others. It would cause a constitutional crisis. You can't do that. Now, I heard Guam and Washington, D.C. have it, but they're not states, is my understanding. So maybe they skated around the rule. But needless to say, what would happen, do you think? What kind of marches and rioting and just turmoil in general would be over this? And how many gay couples would be so pissed and hurt that they didn't get their day in court? Win, lose, or draw, we wanted to be heard. And the court hid behind some cowardly procedure. This is ridiculous. The system is broken. Okay. How about Roe v. Wade? 1973, year before I got out of high school. Landmark decision in which the court ruled that the Constitution of the United States protects a pregnant woman's liberty to choose to have an abortion without excessive government restriction. They didn't say no restriction, they said excessive, and that's the relative term. Whether they agree with this or not is beside the point. This ruling allowed, whether you're pro-abortion, anti-abortion, or somewhere in the middle, this allowed millions and millions and millions of more babies being aborted. That is serious social stuff. That is very serious stuff. And the court took on the case. And you can go right on here on Wikipedia and go through who voted for it, what it overturned in part, and all the reasons for it. But think about this for a minute. The court classified the right to choose to have an abortion as fundamental, which required courts to evaluate challenged abortion laws under the strict scrutiny standard, the highest level of judicial review in the United States. This allowed women to choose to abort their babies and caused, it's going to have a ripple effect in society for generations. Whether you're before or against this ruling is beside the point. This had huge social ramifications. I'll say it again, because people aren't comprehending. What would happen if they didn't even rule on this case and the restrictions continued? Each state put more and more restrictions. There'll be rioting in the streets. There would be the women's movement, at least the new women's movement. The old one had some reason to behind it, but the new one is worthless. But anyway, that's besides the point. They would feel cheated, absolutely cheated, and they would be pissed, absolutely pissed. Let's go to the third case. Brown versus the Board of Education, 1954. It's 2 years before I was born. It was a landmark decision in the U.S. Supreme Court in which the court ruled that U.S. state laws establishing racial segregation of public schools were unconstitutional, leading to segregated schools are otherwise equal in quality. Handed down on May 17th, 1954. It was a 9-0 decision, by the way, which something this important is rare. And I agree. I happen to agree. I don't agree with the fact that if a school district is 98% non-white, that you should bust the kids out into other school districts that are mostly white and then take the white kids and bust them in. I don't agree with that. Neither do black people or any other minorities or non-white people. They don't like it either. But have separate just because of your race is wrong. not just illegal, it's immoral as well. But what would happen, though? And back then, this is 1954, things were a lot different. If the court said, you know what? Jesus, I don't want to hear these people screaming race traitor and all this crap and pounding on my door and sending me packages in the mail, if there's bombs in them and all the ridiculous stuff I have to hear. Every time I go somewhere or eat dinner in a restaurant, I got to get harassed. The hell with it. I'm not going to hear any of this. Any of it. Let them keep segregated, especially in the South. I really don't care. It doesn't affect me or my family. I could care less. The civil rights people would have been pissed. Why? They didn't get their day in court. Win, lose, or draw, they wanted to be heard. They wanted to be heard. And they didn't, and they felt cheated. Now, I want you to think about all three of those examples. All of you on the left that are taking great joy in the fact that the Supreme Court skated on their responsibilities. To have a really difficult job like being on the Supreme Court, it has its tremendous advantages. You have great say and great power over what goes on in your country, and that's a huge responsibility. But when things are going fine and you're just ruling on cases between corporations or a union, a person doesn't want to join a union, but the union says they have to, and things like that. And cases that are important, but don't affect the tens of millions of people. Don't abort millions of babies. Don't keep blacks and whites separate in schools. Don't let gay couples get married. It's a responsibility you took on. And sometimes cases are difficult. Cases are difficult. Ask any doctor. The vast majority of his cases that doctor sees every day are basically everyday stuff. But sometimes they get a case that's really heart-wrenching and really, really bad. So what do? I'm not going to see those patients? No. You take on the responsibility you took to become a doctor. They took an oath when they put their hand on the Bible to become a Supreme Court justice or Chief Justice. And these cases are important, and they're landmark decisions. You see, all three of these are landmark decisions. And it's despicable what they did, absolutely despicable. And Katie is right. They skated their responsibility. Now, let's finish up with this. All of you that would have been outraged and furious over Roe v. Wade not being heard, or Brown versus the Board of Education, or same-sex marriage, that you felt cheated, that the court wouldn't even take the time to listen to your side, to listen to an issue you feel so strongly about, that it's at the core of what you believe. And they couldn't even take the damn time to even hear your case. What an insult and slap in the face. Now I want you to think about the fact, how about the people that were supporting the Texas case, the Texas Attorney General, and the FRAUD that went on? Like I said in an earlier episode, it's a turtle on a fence post. Somebody put it there, you just can't prove it, but we all know what happened. But you couldn't even get your day in court. Even the three new Supreme Court justices did nothing. Nothing. I'm so disappointed because I think extremely highly of those three. Extremely highly. Judge Alito and Judge Roberts as well. And those two actually, Roberts and Alito, wanted to hear the case. I think it should have been heard. But now I want you to be what you would have thought with those other three cases. I want you to be a Trump supporter or a person that's looking for fairness and justice. They want your day in court. There's no guarantee you'll win, but at least the case will be brought out. The facts will be presented to the public as well as the Supreme Court. And they were denied. They were cheated again. and they are pissed. Think about that for a minute. That the next court could not hear a case that you feel extremely strongly about personally, but they'll baby out on that, because once you do it once, it becomes easier and easier and easier. I'm absolutely flabbergasted, and I do feel cheated. When people feel cheated, they get mad. When they get mad, they organize. Now, here's the problem. Conservative people on the right side of the aisle, aren't nearly as good at organizing as the left is. That's been the problem for a long time. But now, the average person walking around is pissed, especially people on the right or people that support the president. If he lost, he lost. But they didn't even get a chance to be heard. And all they really wanted was to be heard. Until next time, folks, goodbye and good luck.